Hi, sixth grade. This video is going to be all about volume. We've really kind of looked at the difference between mass and weight. You guys have done a lot with mass now and finding the mass using triple beam balance. The other measurement that we said that we were kind of arguing about if it would be good to use for measuring our ingredients is volume. So the first thing that you really need to know about volume is going to be the definition and what we're actually measuring, and then we're going to need to be able to find the volume. So we need to be able to know what tools and the steps that we're going to take to find that information out. So up on my screen right now, I have a graphic organizer. This is actually going to be how we're going to take our notes for volume this time. So I'm going to put a little bit more responsibility on your shoulders, and you're going to have to make sure that you're listening to the video and filling out the notes on your own. So this time I'm not going to be typing in the notes. So you should either have your digital copy up of this, or there's a paper copy over on the black shelves that you can grab. And I'm only going to be talking about volume of a regular solid and the definition. So this the first kind of section right here, and then up here. That's what we're going to be focusing on. You guys will have 2 more videos to talk about how to find the volume of a liquid and find the volume of an irregular solid. So you'll really need to make sure that if you get a paper copy that you're keeping this safely in your science binder, because we will be going over that. And then there's also on the back using a graduated cylinder, so I'll have a video for that as well. So this paper will be important to keep and not lose as you go along in this part of your to-do list. So starting off here, the first thing is that we're going to be talking about is what volume actually is measuring. And volume is measuring the amount of space an object takes up. So with mass, we are trying to figure out how much matter is actually in that object. Now we're going to figure out how much space is that matter actually taking up. So for example, I have this tissue box here. We're going to figure out how much space the tissue box is taking up. So go ahead and make sure if you didn't fill in your definition, remember I'm not going to be typing, so you might want to pause your video right now and make sure that you type in your definition there. And you're going to see that I have fill in the blanks for you guys since I'm not typing as much, so you guys can go ahead and fill in your blanks right now. I'm going to kind of pull this up here. So we're going to be working with finding the volume of a regular solid. And what that means is it's usually going to be a cube or a rectangular prism, something that's going to be very easy to measure dimensions of. So if I were to hold up this glue gun, the glue gun would not be easy, it wouldn't be easy to measure the dimensions of this, so I would call this an irregular solid as opposed to this tissue box. It's going to be very easy to measure the sides or even this small little cube here. So the first thing that we want to do when we're trying to find the volume is we are going to use a formula. And so the formula that we're going to use for volume of a regular solid is going to be length times width times height. And you've probably already heard this in your math class before, so this might be review, which is good. So we need to easily be able to measure those different areas. So the tool that I'm going to be using is a ruler. So on your notes, make sure that you guys are still following along. The tool that we're going to use is the ruler. And then the formula that we're using, you can fill that out as well. Length times width times height. So what I'm going to do, I need to first find the length, the width, and height. So that's going to be my first step. So when I look here, I'm going to hold my box. And one tip to make sure that you measure, you don't measure the same side twice, is I put my finger on the point. The other thing that I want you to watch too is when you guys are using your rulers, do you see, I think it might be difficult to see on this ruler, the 0 doesn't actually start at the end of our ruler. The 0 is starting down a little bit. So really make sure that you focus on that when you're on your ruler. Some, the 0 will start at the very edge. Others, the 0 marks actually put on the ruler. So if I put my finger here and measure it across, we're going to get a certain number. So we're just going to say that when I record the length for this, so I have my finger on this edge here, and notice that I'm using centimeters. That is going to be one of the units that we use for finding volume. So no more inches, we're going to use metric. So we start off at the 0, and I take it over, and that is going to be 22 and a half is how long this is. So this would be considered my length. So I have 22 and a half, and I just kind of put that here. We're in centimeters. And then going from where my finger was, now I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So this will be my width, and I hold my ruler up there, and that is going to be 11 and a half. So that would be my width. And then my height, so that I'm going up from that same where my finger is, so in that same direction, and that is going to be 9 and a half. Okay, so you don't need to draw this box for yourself. I'm doing that for me. What I would do is I would put my formula first, and then I would actually fill in my numbers. So we said our length is actually 22.5 centimeters. Then our width, that's my second number that I'm filling in, was 11.5. And then my height was 9.5. Honestly, you can put these numbers in any order, because we know when we multiply, it doesn't matter what order we multiply in, we're still going to get the same number. So 2 times 3 is 6, just like 3 times 2 is 6. I just like to stay organized with myself and know what was considered length, width, and height. So I have those 3 numbers, and that's my second step of my formula that I would write down. And then we're going to have to multiply these together. Now, I cannot multiply these in my head, and you are allowed to use a calculator when calculating volume. So I'm just going to repeat that. You are allowed to use a calculator. So you might want to start bringing your calculator with you if you're on this step. There's also a calculator on your Chromebook that you can use. So putting that information into our calculator, we get 2,458.125 is our volume. And then let's kind of take a look at what happens to our units, because our units changed here. So what we did here was we did centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. So because we're multiplying 3 dimensions, this is 3D, our units are actually going to get cubed. So we say that this is centimeters cubed. If you think about it in math class, if you were to take a number, I say we do 2 times 2 times 2, and Mrs. Kelly asked you to put this into exponent form, you would do it 2 cubed, because we're multiplying 2 times 2 times 2. Same thing here with our units. We're doing centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. So that's where that little 3 comes from. I have a lot of people mess up, and a lot of times they'll say that this is squared. Remember, squared is with the 2. Cubed is with the 3. So at this point right now on your page, you should have your units filled out. We're going to measure length, width, and height in centimeters, and our final units are going to be centimeters cubed. So if we're going through those steps to find the volume, we need to find the length, the width, and the height first. Then we need to sub those numbers into our formula. We're going to multiply to get our answer, and then we need to remember to include our units. So I'm going to be looking for all of those different steps when I am grading your work. Another thing that I want to talk to you with units, we are using centimeters cubed in this case because it worked for this size tissue box. If we're using a really big box, maybe like a box for a refrigerator, we might be using meters cubed. That's a larger unit. Or if we're doing something really small, maybe like the size of this tiny little cube, we might use millimeters. So it's really going to depend on what units you're using to measure your length, width, and height. And that's going to depend on what your final units are. So you're just going to cube whatever final units you're ending up with. So this is how you find the volume of a regular salad. Make sure that you do have that notes page all filled out for your graphic organizer. And then if you have any questions about finding the volume of a regular salad, make sure you see me. The next step that you're going to be working on is actually going and finding the volume of 2 real boxes. So you'll need your ruler, and then there's a packet over on the black shelf, and it's called Determining Volume Packet. So the paper looks like this. You are only going to be doing this first set. So I actually have a whole bunch of other determining volume practice on here, but you're going to take video notes and then finish this page up later. So I give you your formula for the first box. You'll have to actually figure out the length, the width, and the height. And then for the second box, you need to give me the formula and make sure that you're showing your formula work. So when I say make sure to show all formula work, you need to make sure that you have the original formula, the numbers that you're subbing in, and with units, and then the answer with units. So I'm looking for those 3 steps for your formula. You will not get full points if you don't show me all of that work. It's going to make sense why I'm making you show the formula work now for volume when we get to density, because eventually we're going to be working with a lot of different formulas. So if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Other than that, thank you for watching.